Hey guys, and welcome back to a new episode. This is part 3 of the series. This part, as promised in the previous part, we're gonna handle logging in a user and registering a user. It's gonna be more configuration, it's gonna be much more adding modules and stuff, but I will try to explain it as best as I can. We're gonna do this in multiple steps because it's quite a big feature we're gonna add. Especially if you want to understand how everything works under the hood. Also, I would like to mention it's not the year 2023, so we're going to make a video. It's the 17th, as you can see over here. So yeah, let's get started. So the first things we are gonna do is we're gonna look at our structure here. So we had some routes, we had some views. And we expanded our views with an API route and a slash route in the last episode. Here we actually can get rid of this one because we don't need it anymore. Remember, I left it there for references, but as we will progress, I want to clean up the code a little bit, optimize it a little bit as well. First things I would like to do is we used nodemon before, if you remember it very well, and then we would type something like nodemon app. And then the app would start on our desired location. This is interesting, of course, but this is nodemon, right? We can actually put this in a nice command, and I'm going to show you how to do this. So go to package.json, and what you want to do here is you want to add a new script, basically, and we're going to call this the dev script. So dev, and in this dev script, you can add nodemon app. Here we go. And all this is gonna do now is when I will go back out here, before we always had to do nodemon app, this is gonna execute it for me. So if I'm gonna say npm run dev, which is this one, dev here is the same one as over here, I hit enter, kabam, and I have it too. And this is much easier because everything starts with npm then, as you had npm start before, which worked as well. Then now you also have npm run dev, here we go. And it worked. So I'm gonna open Chrome real quick right here, and then we have our application right here. So what I want to do is I want to add a new login page and also a new register page. So when we're logged in and registered, we want to make sure that these buttons disappear, and instead it says welcome the user. And then we also want to make sure that we can delete the user. We're going to do this in multiple steps because I do not want to, overwhelm you guys with lots of information. So we're going to do this step by step. So the first thing we can do is we will go back to our application and look what we have so far. So far we had 3 dependencies, AJS, Express, and Path. During this episode, it's going to become much bigger. It's going to include many more dependencies because we're going to actually use many of them to build our application right now. And this is often how there's even a joke in programming that the node modules, you don't want to look into this, you don't want to open this, how many there are and all this shit. Well, basically, you'll notice that there are many modules, and it is useful because you can attach the modules you like, and I like this approach. So okay, let's get started. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start working on the routes. So right now we have a couple of views here. We have a home view, an about view, and an index view. We would also like to have a login view and a sign up view. So let's get started. Let's go to the header, and we're gonna add a login page. So basically /login, and we're also gonna add a register page or a sign up page. So sign up, something like this, and then /sign up. Here we go. And the benefit of this is that now we can click those buttons and we should go to the routes, right? As we learned before. So let's go take a look at our application real quick. This should be added, login, sign up. This is what we need. Of course, I'm going to click this now, nothing there. We know why, because we learned in previous lesson that we need to attach a route for this. So let's go to the home, routes, yes. And we're going to add a couple of routes here. So the first route we would like to add is a get route, and this route is going to be a /login route, right? And we're going to say function again, rec res, and then here we go. And in this route, we would like to render a view. So basically, I click here, I say new file, I'm gonna create a new view, login.hjs. Here is my new view. Similar to my previous view, I would like to have the same partials included. So I'm gonna add an include partial here, so I can take it from the previous page. I say include partial, kabam. So this is the header, and then this is the footer. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add some HTML. Because I don't want to bother you guys with huge amounts of typing of HTML, I'm just gonna copy paste an excerpt, and I'm gonna put the link in the description where you can find the excerpts to this HTML content. So let's make sure that we figure it out here as well. So we go to the home. We still need to add it here, home/login. That's it. We hit save, it automatically refreshed. Let's take a look what we have so far. Login. Oh, that's nice. So this is basically what we needed, right? The next thing we're gonna need is a sign up page. So same principle, I guess you can even pause the video right now and try it yourself. If you know that the sign up HTML is also found in the description. But however, I'm gonna do it real quick and show it right now. It's up to you what you decide to do, okay? So we're going to home. I'm gonna copy paste this guy here and paste it right here, and we can change it to sign up, and this is also gonna be home/sign up. So what do we still have to do? We have to add another sign up view. I'm gonna also add this in my home folder here, new file, signup.hjs. Here we go. And then again, you will be able to find this HTML in the description. I'm just quickly gonna copy it and paste it in here. Here we go. And this should give us another sign up page. Wow. So basically, how is it gonna work for now? Our user is gonna be able to give in a username, an email address, a password, and then another password. That's basically how it works for now. And then when the user hits this button, it is gonna route it to the route we're gonna build, and there we're gonna actually create the user in the database. So these pages are ready. It's already a nice accomplishment we have. We also have the home page and the about page from last time. So now the next step would be to start expanding our application in the app. Here we go. So basically what we need to add now are a bunch of new modules, and I'm gonna go through them piece by piece, part by part, so you really understand what we're gonna do. Because we're gonna be using modules like passport, body parser, cookie parser, session, mongoose. So these are all new modules that will be added, and I want to be sure also Flash, but Flash is going to be for next episode. I'm going to add it and then later on explain why we added it. But it's a lot of new stuff. So before this, we're going to start making our database. For this, you can create your own free database, a Mongo database basically, in this website here, mlab.com. So I'm going to route you guys to this. Here we go. So this is mlab.com. You can start instantly with 500 megabytes for free, which is interesting. I'm not sponsored or anything by them. I just enjoy their services. So, and then you can just register with your information here. You can click get started with the 512 megabytes, and this will be enough for our test purposes. So go ahead and register, or you can also just surf to mongodb.com and then try free, and then register here. It's the same. MLab is now acquired by MongoDB, so it's possible. And then through this, you can basically use Google Cloud Platform, AWS, and Azure to host your MongoDB on. For me now, right now, I'm just gonna sign in real quick. Okay, I'm signed in right now, and this is what you get basically. You can create a new database here. You click just test database. I did it too. And then you just enter your collection name. And that's good for now. Then if you created this, we're gonna come back to this a little bit later, because you're gonna need a connection to this database, a connection string basically. But we're gonna get back to this in a minute, so I'm just gonna move this ahead on the side here, and we're gonna start working. Okay, so the first things we're gonna need is we're gonna need to add some dependencies in our app here. So the first thing we're gonna need to access our database is called mongoose. So we can do require mongoose. Here we go. The second thing we're gonna need is the cookie parser. Cookie parser. You can type it the way you want. MongoDB, Node.js is very free framework to work in. Then we need passport. Passport is basically for authentication. So we're gonna add passport as well. And we also need session. So session is require session. Express session. All right. So those are the things we need right now. I'm also gonna add Flash to this. We already did it then for now. Require connect Flash. It will be clear later on why we need it. I just added so we can make the install at once. So then you can hit Control-C, get out of it in your terminal, and type in the installation for this. So this is gonna be npm install mongoose cookie parser passport express session. So you can type it with spaces, connect Flash, and then you dash dash save, and it should install everything. So here we go. We have 5 new installments. So connect Flash, passport, express session, cookie parser, and mongoose. So right now, if we take a look at our package.json, what do we see? We see that these items were added. So we see all these new dependencies we have that I was talking about. More will follow, but for the app right now, this is enough. So all of these are installed right now, and as you can see, they're not being used. You can see also a message from the thing. Mongoose is declared, but its value is never used. Time to use them. So the first thing we're gonna do is we are gonna make a connect to the database. And this is why I wanted you guys to make an account, or you can use a local database as well, but if you wanna follow along with the tutorial, the easiest option is just to make a MongoDB account in the cloud and then just hit your database there. You can run MongoDB locally on your computer as well. It is what you prefer. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm just gonna put it online and use the online version. So connect, and then we're gonna give in our link, our database link. For now, I'm gonna just hit 2 of those quotes, quote unquote, and then we're gonna add some extra options here. We wanna use unified topology, is true. We wanna say use the new URL parser, it's true, and use the create index and put it on true. Later on, I'm gonna explain what this all means, but for now, just add those options. If you don't add them, it was still gonna work, but it's gonna give you a deprecation warning because certain ways of accessing the database have changed over time, and then you get deprecation warning basically. So it's better to use the last new options, which are these. And then secondly, we wanna add a string here, right? A connection string to the database. There are multiple ways to do this. We could put this in an environment variable. I'm gonna explain environment variables a little bit later on in the course. So for now, we're gonna make a new folder. So add a new folder, params. And then in there, you can just add a new file, which would be params.js, something like this. And what we want to do then is in this file for now, we're going to add all our configuration items, connection strings to the database. Maybe we're going to use a third-party element in our website. For instance, an editor or something, a component that somebody created, and then you need an API key for this, for instance. Then we can store all these API keys also in this parameters file. Later on, I'm going to show you how we can also use environment variables to achieve such thing. But because I want to focus on this logging in and registering, we're going to leave this out of scope a little bit. So then basically, we're going to create a new constant and we're going to call it database connection. And this is going to have the link to our database that we just created. In this link, you're going to have to supply your user and your password. So if you're gonna go here, I cannot show mine, obviously, otherwise you can just use mine. But basically, if you go here to this MongoDB cloud thing, you're gonna see a, if you hit clusters, you're gonna see your sandbox, your cluster, and then you can click connect. And then here you can say connect your application. There's gonna be a link there. You can copy this link and paste it into your, so basically here, you can copy this link and paste this in the string. You're just gonna have to edit the password. So basically, I'm gonna do this now as well. I'm just gonna take this link and copy it there, okay? So basically hit copy, paste it in here, and then you'll have to fill in your own password, and then this is secured, okay? We can do this for now separately, so I'm just gonna do it for me, and then I'm gonna close this file, okay? So don't forget to hit your password here. And then the next part would be, if you have done this, if you typed your password here, we're gonna export this. So we're gonna say export module.exports. This is the way we export things in Node.js, and then we say database connection. Here we go. So this is all we have to do basically. We just export this part, and don't forget to fill in your password, okay? And then we can use this in our application. So if we go to app.js here, and we want to use this parameter, we're gonna have to require it as well. So this is actually the first time we're requiring a custom module we made. Go ahead and require it. So if you want, you can just copy one of those and then just hit them here. And then you can just say, give me the params, and then you're gonna require, you can start with the dot, which is your root. And then you say, I need params/params. And then in here, you can basically say, give me params.database connection. And this is your link to your database. So right now we know how to access the database. We can use Mongoose, and it's not in this type of style anymore, so it means we used it. We can use Mongoose to connect to this database, and this is good now, so we're ready. Don't forget to add a semicolon here, yes, and we can move on. So this is the first part. We wanted to be able to connect to the database. The second thing we want to do is to be able to, basically it's called models. So a model is basically a representation or a schema of our database. So which tables we're gonna have, basically which columns. So this is what we're gonna make. We're gonna create a new model. To make it nicely organized, we will create a new folder and we'll call it models. And in this folder, we're gonna add a new file, which is gonna be the user file. And the user file is gonna be the representation of our model user. And this model user will be in our database. In this database that we have here, this will be our model. So if we would go here and we just quickly check our database here, we will have a model user. So the next part we want to do is we want to make sure that we start off with creating a nice schema. For this, we're going to need a new module, which is called bcrypt. And bcrypt is basically going to allow you to hash your passwords, compare the hashed passwords, and so on and so on. So this is important module we're gonna use. I'm gonna use bcrypt.js right now. There's also a bcrypt module. This one uses fully JavaScript. If you need better performance, you're gonna have to switch to bcrypt itself. But because you have to add some additional dependencies and it's not fully Node anymore, we're gonna stick with bcrypt.js right now. But the API is the same, so you can switch them out. We can do this in a later video as well, if you guys would like to see this. So the next part we want to do is we want to import Mongoose. Mongoose is going to be required as before. And we're going to install our bcrypt. So again, as we did before, npm install bcrypt.js --save. Here we go, we hit it. And then I always just check the package.json. Is it there? Yes, it's there. This is the version we have right now. It's here, guys. Let's do it. So the next part we want to do is we want to create a schema, right? So let's start with a user schema, and this user schema is going to be equal to a mongoose.schema. Here we go. And the schema, as I talked about, is the representation of our data. So if you remember the form, then you know that we wanted a username from the user. So we're going to type in username, type, and we're going to say this is required. And we also wanted an email address of the user. It's also going to be a required something. And an email address is also going to be unique. So we don't want to have two the same email addresses, because email addresses are going to be used to log on to our system. We're also going to have a password type string. This is required false. And we're going to have a created add. So we would like to know when the user was created, when we are going to create a new user. So we're going to set this to a default. And the default is going to be equal to date.now, which means the day of today. So this means if I do not supply this field when I add a new user, it's going to automatically take it as the default date.now. So that's how it works for now. So what do we have so far? We created a schema. In the schema, we created 4 fields, a username, an email, and a password, and the created add. The next things we're going to need to do is we're going to have to add some extra methods for saving, like before we save, etc., etc. But for now, I'm just going to say here var user equals mongoose.model. We're going to say user and user schema. Here we go. And then we say module.export user. And then basically we tell this model here is going to be exported, and that's what we wanted so far. The reason we needed bcrypt here is because in our user model, we're going to have to make some extra methods. But for instance, before we're going to save the model to the database, we want to do some things with the password that was supplied over here. So that's what we want to do right now. So we're going to say user schema.pre. This basically means before it is going to be saved, before we hit save, you're going to see this in a minute. We're going to implement a function, and we're going to do it like this. Here we go. And then basically we're going to say the user, var user equals this. And then we're going to say if the user dot is modified. So we want to check if the password was modified. Password. If the password was not modified, is modified, yes. So if the password was not modified, we want to return done, which means get out of there. The password was not modified. We don't need to use our expensive resources to encrypt it, right? To hash it. I'm sorry. So then we're going to say bcrypt dot generate a salt, and then we need a salt factor. I'm going to give the salt factor 10, so we can basically add salt factor here, salt factor, and then we can just put it to 10. And if you want, you can make this a constant too, because it's not going to change, so I will just make it a constant. And then we're going to say, okay, generate a salt, and we want to have a salt factor here. And then basically we will create a callback here. We're going to work with a callback. So you can say error and the salt. So then in this callback, we want to check, okay, what happens if there's an error? We're going to say error and return done. So get out of there again, get out of this method, because there's an error, and supply this error with the done. We're going to handle this later. But if there's no error, we would like to bcrypt hash, basically. We will want to hash the user.password. So this is the password that was supplied. You will see this in a minute. We're going to add the salt to it, which is basically our salt that we generated right here. And then we're going to say function error hashed password. So this salt in our case, yeah, okay, here we go. Yes. So in our case, we have everything fine now. So we have a callback when this method is generated and it worked out basically. That hashed the password. Again, there could be an error while doing this. So we're gonna say if there's an error, return done, and it again means get the hell out of there. We don't want to be there. And then if it worked, then we're gonna say user.password equals the hashed password. And this, I guess right now, most of you who haven't been working with this before are gonna be like, wow, that looks complex, or it's difficult, but it's gonna get more as we progress through the course now, especially through the video. You're gonna realize it's gonna become more clear and clear as we go. So basically we did this. The next thing I would like to do, so basically the pre has been done. The pre method has been made. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add a check password. I would like to add this on the model too. So he's gonna say user schema.methods.check password. And this is going to be equal to a function guess and done. So again, very similar way of working. If this dot password is not equal to null. So basically, if there was a password supplied, right? bcrypt.compare, we're going to compare the guess with this dot password. The guess is going to be what is going to be supplied to this check method. We're going to see this in a minute as well, how it works. I'm going to explain it. Function error is match. Okay, and then we're just doing this. So bcrypt compare is going to basically compare the password that you supplied in a textual form with the hashed password that is in your database. And if this is correct, it's going to say done and is match. Here we go. So it's gonna hit done, get out of there. We wanted to do what we wanted to do. It's a match, yes or no. And okay, so we have two methods added to our model, our database model, which is a pre method, which does this pre-save. So right before we're gonna hit save, it's gonna execute this code and check password. Okay, if you're like still a little bit like what the hell is this, it's gonna become more clear as we progress. So the next part we want to start working on is the, so we created the model right now. We created our methods inside the model. The next part we would like to work on is the routes. So from now on, we can go hit app.js again. We're gonna need some extra things for our routes. We're gonna have to use body parser, for instance, and body parser is basically allows you to get the body objects that are supplied when we fill in a form. So I will show you guys in a minute. So if you go to our, I'm gonna close it all. Let's close it all. And if you go to our views here, we go to sign up. We basically have a form here that we're gonna fill in. And as you can see, the form has a method, post, and an action /signup. And the form is gonna supply data. So basically we have a username here, we have an email, we have a password, and we have a repassword, basically to check if the password was correct. We're not gonna do anything with this right now. So there are three elements here, and we are supplying this data. And in order, when we're making a post request, which is a post request to the server in our route, we are gonna give data in the body, and this data is gonna look username, double point, this, etc., etc. And in order to fetch this data, we need body parser. So let's go back to app.js and let's set body parser. So this is also a module that is used, .url encoded, here we go, and then we're gonna say extended false. Later on we can go through what it means. The feature right now has priority. I don't want to make the video too long, so you really understand the point I'm trying to make, and then we can go on to this. Then we also need the cookie parser. This is for when we're gonna make cookies and store information in cookies. And we're also gonna use session. Express session basically allows you to make sessions. Sessions, for instance, also used by Passport. And here we're gonna have to supply 3 elements. The first one is a secret. This could be a secret key that you have to basically secure it. So I'm just gonna add some shit here. Okay. Maybe some, you can add whatever you want, just make sure that nobody can guess it, right? Don't do 1, 2, 3. Then resave, and then resave could be false. And save uninitialized is also false. If you're interested in what all this does, you can always find these modules. If you type in Google Express Session, if you type in cookie parser, you can find a lot about the API and how it works. So basically, just know this is also used in our routes to fetch our data. It's also going to be used by Passport. So this is when we are going to use Passport. So Passport is our module that we are going to use to authenticate. So I quickly went to the website of Passport here to just show you real quick. So basically, Passport allows you to authenticate in your JavaScript applications with up to 500 plus strategies. You can view them all. There's a Facebook one, there's Bearer Authentication, Google Auth Authentication, Twitter, JWT Local, which is what we're gonna use. But there are so many of them. So whatever you need, there's a higher chance that you can use Passport to do it. We can do this in the next video. If you leave it in the comments below, if you guys would be interested in a Passport with Facebook authentication or Twitter or whatever. So I just wanted to show you guys, this is the Passport module we're gonna use now. So let's head back. Yep, and we're gonna use Passport. So we're gonna say passport.initialize. This is gonna initialize our Passport module. Then we're gonna say passport.use passport.session. Okay. And then I'm gonna add this one as well already, just for the sake of it. Flash. This is the one that I will tell you about in the next videos. So basically the flash here, connect flash. We're gonna configure this a little bit later. Basically, right now it's a little bit beyond the scope because we want to just be able to log in and register. This is already enough, right? So here we go. We have everything ready in our app.js. So as you can see, it expanded quite a lot, and there's a lot of modules that we needed, as I said before. So we're gonna start working on our routes. So basically, we have a login page and a sign up page. And as I mentioned before, there's an action here, a post action, that is going to go to sign up. I guess you know this, verbs, get, post, put. Those are HTTP verbs. So basically, one of them is post, and post means I'm going to send data to the server I'm posting. It's often used in web services as well. So basically, I'm sorry, we have to go to our home routes here. Yes. And we're gonna add, we already have login and sign up, which we added today. We're gonna add a post one for login and for sign up. We're gonna start with sign up. So right here below sign up, you can start router dot, and then you're gonna use post. So basically it means we're gonna do a post action. We're gonna call it sign up as well. So posting on the route sign up, reg res next, and then we go here like this. And then this is where this reg comes in that I was talking about with the body parser that we need to access. So if we go to this body parser, we need to access this data. Here it's where we're gonna be able to use it. So what are we gonna send in our HTML? Let's take a look. So we're gonna check the HTML. And what can we find in the HTML, right? So in the sign up HTML, as I said, we have username, we have email, we have password. So these names or accounts. And I guess that's about it. Yeah. And then repassword, this one we won't send to the server right now. And then when we hit submit here, the form is gonna trigger and send the data to our route right here. So what we need to do now is we have to say var username equals rec.body.username. The next one is email equals rec.body.email. And the next one is password, and this one also equals rec.body.password. And thanks to the body parser, get it? We can basically access this information that has a name here in our form, here. The next thing we want to do is we want to check if this user already exists, right? So for this, we're going to have to import our some new imports. First of all, passport, require passport. And then the next one is user, require our models / user. So this is the user model we made. There is one more thing, but we have to make a setup passport, which basically configures our strategy on how we're gonna log in. So right now, when we have all this information here, we need to tell passport that we wanna authenticate with this information. So we're gonna have to make a new thing here, a new file, and we're gonna call it setup passport.js. Here we go. And here we can use our passport module to define everything we wanted to define with our passport module. So let's get started. For our passport is require passport. Then var local strategy is require passport local.strategy. var user is require ./models/user. And then we want to export a function which will serialize the user, deserialize the user, and use the user field as well. So we're going to do module.exports is function. And we're going to add a bunch of functions in there. So the first one is a serialize user. Function user. Okay. Just say serializing the user. Done. Null user dot underscore ID. So basically the ID of this user that will be given in our MongoDB. So serialize the user. This is basically gonna turn, I'm gonna write it here, turns a user object into an ID. And then we're doing something similar, which is called deserialize the user, which is the opposite of serializing. Deserialize the user. And this is basically overriding the fact that we're gonna turns the ID into a user object. This is basically what these things do. User defined by ID. Function error user. Here we go. And then we say done. We don't want to get out of here. Error if it's an error, and user if it's a user. And then the last one is we're gonna create a strategy. Basically, with Passport, the strategy is that you create a way of logging in. With us, it's a new local strategy as we imported it here. So this basically means that we still need to install the Passport local. npm install passport local --save. Because this is the strategy we have to install that suits on our Passport here. And then we can basically go ahead and set up the Passport with the login strategy. So then we're gonna say passport.use login, and then we say new local strategy. We're gonna give some information. The username field will be an email field. The password field will be a password field. Then we say function email password done. Here we go. And then within this function, we're gonna say user.find1 with this email address, because email address was unique, remember? So since we have a unique email address, error.user, so this is the user we found, right? If the error is So if there's an error, I'm just gonna return done error, point comma. And if the user does not exist, yeah, then we also have kind of an error in a way. So then we're gonna say return done null, it's false. The second parameter will be false, and then we're gonna say, we're gonna add a message object to it, which says no user has that email. Later on, we're gonna use our component to basically show it on the form that, oh yeah, the user doesn't have an email. So basically check password is the next method we're gonna execute. Check password is a method that we made before. And this, as we remember it here in our user, we're gonna add a guess with it and then also a done, right? So a callback function. So the password is gonna be added, and then we're gonna give a callback function, error and is match. So, and if it's a match, yay, it's a match. Then, so if it's an error, then we just say return done error. And if it's a is match, then we say return done null user. Okay. And else we say return done null false and then message. Invalid password. So again, I will explain real quick what we did here before you think I'm just typing. So we basically check the password. If there's an error, we throw the error. We say done, get out of there, error. If there's a match, we say, okay, send the user. And if there is no match, so basically it's an invalid password, we're gonna send object false again with the message, it's false, invalid password. So that's all it has to do. So this is our strategy we made right now. This needs to be encapsulated in like brackets, and here let me check, I think it needs to be closed here as well. Okay, so yeah, don't forget to do that. I will format it a little bit. Okay, so we basically, you guys did this, you know, you made a passport, you set up your first login strategy. That's really exciting. So all we have to do now is register this strategy in our app.js. And to register strategy, you can basically do it very simple. You're gonna say here above var setup passport equals require /setup passport. Okay, and then we can just execute this method, and that's it. So right underneath Mongoose Connect, just say setup passport, kabam. And then it knows, it registers a strategy, it uses this model. It's done, guys. That's what we wanted to do. And then all that needs to happen is we need to fix our routes, and we're ready. And I know this was really hard because it was like, you know, lots of backend coding without much validation and stuff. But once we get through this, it's gonna be amazing. So, okay, we go here and then we say user.find, find one. So again, this is a Mongoose method, so we want to check if this email exists already. Function, error and user. So this is again with a callback function we're working. Callback function is called after it finds it. If there's an error, maybe the database cannot be found, we're just going to return next error. So next means we're going to the next item here, we're going out. I will explain this later as well. And then if user rec, and here basically we can use this flash that we imported. So I'm going to say error, and then there's already an account with this email. Rec.flash, I will explain it to you guys later. I don't want to make it longer than it already is, but you get the gist, right? We're going to use it. And then we want to redirect to signup. So we're going to be like, okay, it's not correct, redirect. Because the email exists already, so it needs to give the user this message. Then the next part is we're gonna add a new user object, new user, and then in here we're gonna say username is equal to the username we have in our variable, password is equal to the password we have in our variable, and email is equal to the email we have in our variable. Okay, so we created a new user object. All the pieces come together. Now we just hit new user.save. Next. Next means I want to go to the next part, right? And that's it. So we hit save, and then it's just gonna use this right before it saves, it's gonna start doing the salting here and hashing our password, something we don't have to worry about anymore. And then once this is done, all you have to do is here, we're gonna authenticate with our passport. So passport.authenticate, this is a method, a native method to passport. We choose the login strategy we created before. And then we're gonna say success redirect slash failure redirect slash sign up. So if it fails, just go back to sign up, and failure flash is true. This is again with this flash. Later on I will explain this. I don't want to overwhelm you guys, as I said before. So this should work. Can you imagine? Let's hope it works. Hardly something works from the first time, but we can try it. So we're gonna hit npm run dev, and we're gonna check localhost 3000. It takes long. Yeah, we crashed. Body parser is not defined. So with me, apparently I made a small error. We created body parser and we didn't include it, I guess. Yes, exactly. So we still need to include body parser as well. I'm so sorry I missed this dependency in installing. So, oh, sorry. var body parser is require, and then we just say body parser. And we're gonna have to install this one as well. So we just hit npm install body parser -- save. So don't forget to install it. Require body parser. And then we call this one over here somewhere. Yes, so this is the body parser that we use. Remember to do request.body.the element we would like to have. npm run dev. Okay, hit localhost. And here we are. Okay, login, sign up, all right. So let's sign up for the first time. Let's give it a shot. So we're gonna say, I'm just gonna hit here test user, let's say John or something. John.testing at testing.be. And then password, we can just, I will name my password something, you know, like, it'll work, right? I'm just gonna hit sign up. I'm signed in. Welcome to my first Node.js app. So how can we check now whether we're signed in or not, right? So I'm gonna go to the database here. I'm gonna go to my collections. And then right here, kabam, I have my user created with a hash, with a username, with an email. And now we can start working with this. So the next thing we wanna fix is the sign in login page. But now that we're signed in, we can actually make the logout functionality first. So next thing we would like to do is add the logout functionality. Okay, so the login and the logout functionality, very easy. We say router.post/login. And this is the same as we did before. Remember this passport.authenticate? So basically what we did here, we can just copy and we can just paste it there. But very important, this needs to be changed to login. Otherwise we have problems. And then the second thing will be to add a logout page. route. But okay, login works. This is good. It's going to be the login page. It's the same as this. So we do passport authenticate, use this strategy, and then it gets through a success redirect, a failure redirect, and a failure flash. So right now we added the login as well. So login is ready. How does login exactly work? We authenticate through the login strategy. If it's a success, it redirects to the home page. If it's a failure, it will redirect back to login. Failure flash, next episode, we're gonna wire this up. But for now, it's outside of scope. So the last thing we wanna do is right now, when we go to our application here, yeah, we can log in, we can sign up. But once we're logged in and signed up, we don't wanna see these buttons here. Instead, we wanna see welcome, the username, and then we also want to see a logout button. So how are we going to do this? This we can do with some AJS syntaxes. So if we go to the header, and this is our header here, we want to start adding 2 routes basically, and we're going to add some AJS syntaxes. So what do we need first? So basically current user. So this is how you write AJS, right? Remember, we included things like this. If the current user is not equal to null, which means if the current user is not equal to null means when the user is logged in, right? Then we want to see 2 things. We want to see a welcome message, right? So we want to see an href here. We're going to add hashtag. And then we're going to say welcome and then the username. If we're gonna use a data type like this one, we use an equals mark. So for instance, current user dot username. If we're gonna access this, it's better to write it like this. And then here we go. And then we just add this. And then the second button we're gonna add is a logout button. So I'm just gonna copy paste this. And we're gonna add logout. And this one we can wire to a logout route, which we're gonna make in a minute. Wow, so this works. Okay, great. So basically, now that this works, we made this kind of like in JavaScript. Within this tags here, we can write JavaScript. And so like this, we made an if clausule that says if the current user is not equals to 0, write this. In the other case, log in and sign up, we don't need this when we're logged in, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say if the current user is equal to null. So in other words, if the current user is not signed in, we are going to show these 2. And then again, we add this as well. So basically, this is again AJS syntaxes. Within these tags, we can write JavaScript all we want. Current user, I need to say this, is now connected to us. Once you're signed in, Passport is gonna make sure that it's connected to this current user. That's why we can access this current user, right? And then log in and sign up are not. Let's take a look. What happened now? Okay, we have an error. So the error is that current user is not defined. And why is the current user not defined? Let's take a look. And of course, I forgot a very crucial step. So basically, this is why last episode we wanted to separate the routes. We still have to add this current user object to our route, right? So if we go to home, we have home and index in the web folder. And basically, what I put here last time to do add in error and info, this has to do with this flash, which is, again, for next episode. But we also need to add a current user object. And this is the request object of the user. And basically, what we're going to do here, we're going to add router.use. Make sure you add it before the slash here. Function reg res next. So basically, next is to move on. So if I execute next here, it's going to move on to the next line. That's what it basically does. If you're wondering what is this next, this is what it is. So, and then we're just gonna say res.locals.current user is equal to reg.user. And this reg.user is the user that the reg.user is what Passport will add to current user, right? So what Passport, basically when I'm logged in, user here is gonna be added to the request, as you can see. And this is in this Passport. So there's also is authenticated, is unauthenticated methods, logout, which we're gonna use very soon. So basically this is the user object that can be found within this request object. I just wanted to show you this where it comes from, right? So basically we add this user to our current user locals, and then it's gonna work. So if we refresh right now, we should see that it works. There's two more things. Okay, very interesting. It's hanging. Why is it hanging? Well, as I told you guys, we also need to execute this next, or it stays in this method. So basically it was staying in this method right now, and that's why it was hanging. So if I refresh now, bang, we have it. And as you can see, we can log in and we can sign up. Login we wired a couple of minutes ago. Let's give it a shot and try to log in. So basically, I think my thing was john.testing and then password. Here we go. Sign in. Bam. Welcome, John. And there's a logout button, but this is not going to do shit right now because we haven't configured the route yet. But it's working. I'm logged in and it knows the current user because in this locals, it's actually good that I forgot about this because I could explain it a little bit now. In this locals, we added to the current user. And now the current user can be found here. When it's not null, we print it here. When it's null, we want to be able to sign in and sign out. The only thing we got to do now is the logout, allowing the user to log out. And then we fully implemented logging in, signing up, and logging out, right? So basically what we still got to do is we got to go to our routes, which is the home.js. And here we're going to add a logout route, basically. So here we're going to add a logout route. And this logout is very easy because I told you guys before, Passport has a user object that is connected to this request, right? So we're going to just say /logout function reg.res. Here we go. And then we're going to say reg.logout. And this is going to log out myself and then res.redirect to the home page. Go to the home page. And this reg.logout basically is going to log out my user. That's what it does. And I can actually go into this definition here, the same definition where we found this user, and this is what it does. This is from Passport, as you can see. If you're curious about this is a TypeScript file. You also see the done method where it comes from, right? Basically the signature of the method. So logout is one of those methods, as is also is authenticated and is unauthenticated. But okay, basically this is how it works right now. So we log out and this should be fine. So this should work. Let's give it a shot. So we're logged in here. I click log out. I'm logged out again. I'm trying to log in again. Testing as my password. Sign in. I'm logged in. Log out. For the sake of it, I'm gonna make another user now. So I'm gonna test user2 and test user2 at test.be yeah, whatever. And then we say testing, sign up. Okay, bam. Welcome test user2. That's it. That was it. And it works. And I can log out again. And now I can switch in between. I can log in with john.testing, sign in. Here we go. I can also log in with test, I don't remember, user at test.be, I think. Testing, sign in. I don't remember my information anymore. I can just check in the database. Let's just check in the database. So if I check in the database here, we have one user now. Let's reset it. We have two users, and this was test user 2 with test user 2 at test.be. That was it. So test user 2 at test.be, testing, Okay, bang, I'm logged in. So it works. And this was it for today. So basically, we were able to log in, sign up, to make a form, make the toolbar, to make the toolbar dynamic based on whether we have a user logged in or not. Logging in works, signing up works, you can create new users. It gets into your database. So all this has been covered. It was a big amount of things to chew, I guess. But now these basics are here. What are we gonna add in the next episode? Next episode, we will add error messages. So basically error messages that are gonna be added. We will add, let's say for instance, it's the wrong password right now. This is not gonna do much. It's just refreshing. I still wanna use this flash, which is basically what it will be used for, to show error messages. We're also gonna make sure that we improve a little bit our logging in system with routes that are secured. So basically, I can access any route right now on the page. We're gonna allow that only you can access certain routes when you're logged in. And then we're gonna start making blog posts. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all the support and the funny comments. And this is what I do it for, you know. If there's questions, always leave them below. If there's suggestions, maybe on how to improve things, what we could do better, just also leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.